Hi there friends, I'm your host Wolf. I would like to welcome you all to the first video of this channel. And this video will be playing the colony building game called Rimworld. Rimworld is a very tough game, but hopefully we'll survive the first episode. We're aiming that this video will be part of a series. We'll be choosing the crash landed setting. It basically features us being part of 3 people who have just crash landed on this planet. Our main objective will be to get off this planet, but to do that we have to survive, of course. We'll be choosing Randy Random as our AI. Basically, Randy will generate random events. It doesn't have any rules, but this will make the game very tough and also very fun. We'll be going with rough setting and of course commitment mode. We'll be naming the game seed after our friend Bear, who is the co-host of this channel. We'll be setting the globe coverage to 50%. That means 50% landmass, 50% water. Other than that, we won't do any more settings. Let's go. With the loading screen out of the way, we'll be setting the map size. We'll be playing at 275 by 275 cells. The random site we've been given is a forest. Other than the temperature, we should not have any problems. The colonists we've been given seem to have a good skill set. We won't change anything apart from their names. This is a quick review of the skills the colonists have. So with the colonists on their way from the crashing ship, they're going to be landing here very shortly. From the first looks, it seems that we have landed in quite a decent map. There are plenty of mountains which we can use as natural barriers in our base. So we're going to start by allocating the resources, which we will later stockpile them and use to whatever we'll need. With the blueprints laid down for our first shelter, we have to decide where we're going to place the first stockpile. This will be a general stockpile, so it's good to have it close to the shelter. It's also a very good idea to have it walled and roofed. We also need to set down a dumping zone so we can transport those stone chunks, and we might later use them either for defense or crafting. With the building plans laid down, now it's a good time to set up the first sleeping spots for our colonists. We also, before anything else, have to set up their work priorities. One final thing before we proceed is the handing of weapons and armor to the colonists. With a brief look at their skill set, we'll be able to decide better. Fern has a decent melee skill but no shooting. Snail, on the other hand, isn't able of doing any violence, so she won't get any. Zele is our best shooter, so he will definitely get the rifle and armor. Fern will of course get allocated the knife. Finally, everyone is hard at work. Fern is busy building the shelters, while Zele is removing some trees and assisting in construction. On the other hand, Snail is removing the stone chunks out of the way. We must not forget to lay down a sleeping spot for our friendly work, Frankie, who will sleep with the rest of the colonists in the bed shelter. Most of the work is done. They just need to cut off a few more trees, construct a few more walls, and finally finish off the roofs. While the colonists are busy finishing off the shelter, we're going to spend this time to plan the boundary walls of the base. Luckily, our base is surrounded by mountains, so it's very wise to use them as part of our boundary walls. At this point, I'm a bit concerned about the marsh north of the base, since it might provide access into the base once all our walls are complete. With the first day over, the colonists have finished off the shelter, while we use the time to lay plans for a kitchen, a freezer, and a dining room. Fern seems to be having some problems to sleep. It seems that her asthma has struck again, and so I have decided to set Snail as secondary doctor to be able to tend to her friend once she wakes up. While Snail has been tending to Fern's medical problem, Zele has been hard at work in sowing some rice. Even though it's a bad event, luckily for us, it has struck while the crops have been just sown, so we didn't lose much progress. At this point, so that the blight doesn't spread any further, we have to cut down the infected crops. With the infected crops safely cut, Zele and Snail can now focus on finishing off planting the rice field. Our next item on the agenda is the building of the freezer. As I said before, this will be part of a 3-room building, which will also house the kitchen and the dining room. Since we might have temperature-related problems in the future, I have decided to place the cooler like this, so it will cool the freezer and heat the other 2 rooms. I have placed down the blueprints for a room to house a wood-fired generator. This generator will be our first source of electricity. We'll use this electricity to power up the cooler for our freezer. I have also left space for a future battery in this room. In the freezer, we're going to store all edible foods and animal corpses. The animal corpses will then be butchered to obtain more meat. The meat will be a key ingredient in future meals. For now, I'm setting the freezer as a low priority stockpile, so that the colonists won't start storing items in it. Before completing the generator, I have decided to place a wooden floor in the freezer. This will make the room much more clean, and thus we'll try to avoid food poisoning in future meals. While setting up a schedule for our colonists, we get attacked by a mad raccoon. Fern and Zele are the ones to face this raccoon threat. Although Zele is our best shooter, the distance is too great for him to be effective. After various misses, Zele has finally hit the raccoon, killing him instantly. Unfortunately, before all this, the raccoon has managed to slightly wound Fern. Zele is proud of transporting his first kill into the freezer. Even though we don't have electricity yet, I decided to start using it, since temperature-wise, it won't make any difference storing it in there or in the general stockpile. And since the packed survival meal won't need the low temperature, I have decided to store it in the general stockpile for now. With work on the generator almost complete, it is about time to start placing down the power cables. The power cables will be connected right up to the cooler, so that in the future we can easily provide electricity in both the kitchen and the dining room. With our electricity goal almost complete, we can now start placing down blueprints for the kitchen and the dining room. However, this gets interrupted because our survivors get raided for the first time. It looks like we're being attacked by a single pirate using a club. Just like before, Fern and Zele are drafted to face our unwanted guest. As soon as Zele has sight on the pirate, he tries to pick her off from a distance. However, neither of his shots find their mark, and thus our colonists find themselves in a brawl. After a brief melee, our colonists managed to kill off the pirate. With the threat dealt with, we should now create a dumping zone to place the corpse of our enemy. This should be done somewhere outside of the base and away from our colonists, so that they can avoid the awful sight of the dead body. This is a good spot for us to end our first episode. The next episode we shall try to build a supply of food. However, to do that, first we need to complete the freezer, and then of course we need to build a kitchen. And with that said, I would like to thank you all for watching. I will see you all next time. Goodbye.